We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and check them out at www.crowdplayapp.com for details. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Oh yeah, just what they need, but then they fed me lies. It comes as no surprise that we still holding on, and fear would take it over. They said we don't belong. We will not on the dough, we will not take a no. You will not gain control, cause maybe this is just the way that we roll. So just go, we will not anymore, cause maybe this is just the way that we roll.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another episode of The Blitz. I am excited this morning. We get to talk about week 3, who's in, who's out. I got my boy, Tony Quigg, as we're about to go through all your questions and comments and concerns that you have for your lineups today, who to start, who not to start. We're Quig's going to give us a little bit of some confidence in starting Alexander Madison now that the news is broken out that Dalvin Cook is officially gone and out for week 3 today. Against the Seattle Seahawks. So we'll talk about that a little bit. First and foremost, man, let's get into it. I'd like to thank the Sports Box giving us the platform as we are presented by the Sports Box. And we can't wait to get in the show. And Tony, how you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling good, but I always wanted to how come this isn't our intro? Right? A little ludicrous, fancy, right? Can that be our intro?
I like that.
Yeah,
I like it.
We got to do some things like we do on baseline jumpers that get us banned, but that's all good. We got a big fancy day today. It's good. Week 3 is here. It's upon us. We have a little bit clearer picture of what's going on and what to expect. We had a lot of preseason expectations, but they really haven't kind of been what we thought. So now we're here. Right. Now we're ready to go. We got a little bit, a couple games on our belt, and now we should have a little bit more educated answers for the people out there.
I agree. Hey, already got a comment on the board here. Alexander Madison or Chase Edmonds. Vikings are going against the Seahawks, and the Cardinals are going against the Jags. Who you got, Tone?
Well, you know what? David Jones is a great question. It's not a softball. It's not an easy one to start. Now, this is a tough one because I like Chase Edmonds today.
So do I.
Connor has been bit into some of his usage, but he still has his receiving ability. So I'm gonna stick with Chase Edmonds. I had him high coming into it. Madison coming through, with a big game. You can't go wrong with either one of them. I'm gonna take Chase Edmonds though.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tone. I'm going Chase Edmonds too, just because we know what we got with Jags defense. And there's still a little bit of there is some uncertainty with Kyler Murray because Kyler Murray he likes to run, but I am definitely with you with Chase Edmonds. I like his usage. I like what they've been doing with him, and he still is a quality back that can catch them from the backfield in case those situations happen. So I do like him, and it's the Jags defense, man.
Yeah, especially in PPR. I think most people are PPR nowadays, and I think that's what sets it apart.
I agree. All right, so we've got a few guys that were questionable coming into the week. They are officially in. That's Chris Jones, the D lineman for Kansas City. Carson Wentz is officially active today for anybody that wants to push in Carson Wentz, even though there should be some trepidation, or your team you're really hurting at quarterback. And Joey Bosa is in for the Chargers in case for some stupid reason you want the Chargers defense, but just throw it out there.
Not today, no.
Who's out? We got a lot. T. Higgins for the Cincinnati Bengals is out. Darrell Henderson is out with those cracked ribs. Brian Baluk, offensive line, in case there's any trepidation once again with Chargers. Chris Harris Jr. is out. Frank Clark is out. Dalvin Cook, like we said, we're going to get into a little bit and talk about it. He is out. Russell Gage is out for the second straight week for the Atlanta Falcons. That hurts a little bit for the number 2. Marlon Mack is out. Jamie Collins, Ramondre Stevenson, Andy Dalton, which Justin Fields will be getting his start today. TJ Watt is out, and Deontay Johnson is out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Anything right there that just goes to your mind, Quigg, on who any trepidation? Should people start going?
You've been killing that word trepidation.
I know. I'm sorry.
Did you get a new dictionary or thesaurus or something like that? Trepidation kind of popped up in your easy spell. But listen,
my easy spell.
There's really no surprises out here. I mean, Brian Beluga being out, that's a big killer. Deontay Johnson, we expected to be out. Baker Mayfield is probably not Baker Mayfield. Joe Burrow, who that offensive line's been absolutely horrible, is pretty happy TJ Watt's not going to be chasing around. Darrell Henderson is the one that was a little bit questionable, but it came into Sony Michel is going to get most of them carries. Unlike Madison, who I think is a good play, Sony Michel is somebody. Let somebody else talk. Let somebody else start them instead if they have Darrell Henderson. Let somebody else start Sony Michel. They're playing against that tough Tampa Bay run defense. And I'm not gonna touch him on that one. So not too many surprises. The one thing he did was Elijah Wilson out for 49ers too.
Oh, Mitchell.
So you're going to see Trey Sermon today. Trey Sermon's going to get the bulk of those carries. He's going to be active. And I know a lot of people drafted Trey Sermon, in the second half of the draft, kind of with a little bit more high expectations than that. So you're going to see a lot of Trey Sermon today because all he has to do is run the ball. So that's what he's going to be doing.
Definitely.
Tonight. That's a night game.
Yeah, guys, give us your comments and questions on your fantasy and all that you need, and we will help you. Hey, let's get into our starts of the week and sits of the week. This is for quarterbacks for me. Daniel Jones against Atlanta and Teddy B against the Jets and Carson Wentz against Tennessee. I have as a sneaky start. And then my sits of the week is Justin Fields against Cleveland, Joe Burrow against Pitt, and Zach Wilson against Denver. For me, man, I'm just spotting it out. We talked about in the former show. Daniel Jones is on fire right now for fantasy wise. He's the lead rusher on the team. He's playing great. He's hit over his projection back-to-back weeks by more than 5 points. This is something that we need to look into as a quick add-in or a fill-in for your teams. He's a great streaming option this week, as most sites has him as the most favorable matchup, which is Atlanta's putrid defense. So Daniel Jones should have a big game today. Looking at the other side for me, the reason why I put in Justin Fields against Cleveland is just because of the two-headed monster with Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. I know they played a little. It's been a little underwhelming, like we talked about earlier, but I still think that it's not fantasy-wise something that I would be comfortable starting Justin Fields in if you have him in dynasty leagues or in non-PPR leagues and you just added him as a last, 15th or 16th round. I wouldn't feel comfortable with putting him in fantasy-wise. Tone?
Well, yeah, I think you're dead on with Daniel Jones. I think he's a spoiler on my start list as well. So we agree there because he's been playing better, and the thing is that he gets a lot of points with his legs too, and with these quarterbacks banged up and stuff like that. Now this thing's going pretty quick, so I'm trying to check up. You have Carson Wentz as your start.
Yeah, as a sneaky start.
See, that's a recipe for me for disaster. I would rather start pretty much any quarterback, Justin Fields, Joe Burrow, Zach Wilson, ahead of Carson Wentz. Why? Carson Wentz has a great matchup. Absolutely. Tennessee secondary is awful. But here's the thing. You put Wentz in your lineup, by the first quarter, you might not have him anymore. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's more of a detriment. I'd rather know that I have a guy who's hurt and not going to play than have a guy who's like Carson Wentz that might just kind of be in there and give me, one series and, says, one of my both hurt ankles can't go. So I'm definitely avoiding Wentz. I'm also in disagreement with Justin Fields. I have him as my start. Why?
You do.
He's going to go out there. He's going to make football plays. He's going to run. He's going to be the focal point of that offense. Yes, Cleveland defense is not a great defense. I expect by no means him to go out there and win the football game. But I think he's going to go out there and do enough for fantasy perspective, be safe. He's going to have at least one rushing touchdown most likely, and he's going to get you some points on that aspect. So if you're desperate, if you have a player like Carson Wentz, or if you're afraid of Joe Burrow against a Pittsburgh defense, or or Baker Mayfield, and you want to try to get in there and throw a guy like Justin Fields in for a sneaky start, or some of these 2 QB leagues too, or a super flex league, Justin Fields isn't a bad option.
Okay. And that's why we are co-hosting the show. We disagree, and that's the beauty of it.
Yep.
Hey, Drew's running back start here for me is Chase Edmonds against Jacksonville and Mike Davis against the New York Giants. I'm sitting Joe Mixon against Pittsburgh for the second straight week. I am sitting Joe Mixon and Miles Sanders against Dallas. I wanted to go a little bit controversy here this week, Tone. I did go with Mike Davis. I know there's a lot of issues concerning Mike Davis's usage plan with Cordell Patterson somehow coming out of God Green's work. Now that he's getting some work at the running back spot, which we saw last week, and he got a lot of production and a lot of touches. But I still feel comfortable with Mike Davis against the Giants defense. And maybe something will come out of it, maybe it won't. But drafting him 6th to 8th ADP, that was his high and low of drafting. I have to feel confident knowing that the Falcons will still do something with him. Miles Sanders for me, Tone. I just think that Dallas's linebacking core has been undervalued, and their D line has been undervalued when it comes against the rushing attack. I know Eckler got a lot of production catching wise, but rushing wise, he didn't really do crap. And I feel like with that being translated from week one with Lenny and Ronald Jones, they really didn't do anything either. If you look at the game line now coming to week 3, I really think that Dallas's rush defense needs a little bit more love, and I think we're going to see that on Monday night as I don't see Miles Sanders doing that much against Dallas's defense at all.
Well, I think I'll start with Miles Sanders. When you're talking about a player like Miles Sanders, when you start him, what are you hoping? You're hoping that he breaks a big run. And there's always that possibility of Miles Sanders breaking a big run, but the fear is that it's never going to be continued usage. He's never going to go out there and get a 25 carry game. Whether it's because they have Jalen Hurts out there and they're using him as a running option, or that's just not what Sirianni is looking to do. Even when they were in the Colts and he was in that, they used a lot of backwards. So you always have people that are threatening, whether it's Boston Scott, who hasn't really done much this year, or Gainwell, who actually showed some flashes, especially in the passing game. So you have that fear. I like to sit against Miles Sanders, and yes, the linebacking core for Dallas has played much better this year, defensive line as well, and they're starting it. To your Mike Davis point, yeah, Cordell Patterson was very effective, but you know what? He only had 10 touches last week.
Yeah.
So he did a lot with them, which you have to give him credit for that. The reason why people were drafting Mike Davis in the 6th round, 5th round, or later, is because there's no one else there, right? No one loved Mike Davis's talent. It's not like he's a phenomenal talent, but he's in a bad situation. They were just looking at him as somebody has to touch the ball in Atlanta, and it's going to be him.
Right.
Well, that offense hasn't really been clicking as they thought. Pitts kind of came into his own a little bit last week, but when you're talking about Calvin Ridley was a little bit hit and miss. So now you see a team against the Giants. So I think the defense is a little bit better. I think they are going to kind of go back to Mike Davis, and he is going to have the opportunity. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think Cordell Patterson is more of a like a little special option every there and there. And I don't think he's going to continue to cut in. He's not going to continue to cut into Mike Davis' work. So,
agree.
Thankfully, I'm not starting Mike Davis in any league.
Chase Edmonds against Jacksonville and Trey Sermon against Green Bay starts for running backs for Tone. CEH against the Chargers and James Robinson against the Cardinals as it sits for the week for the running back position. Listen, man, I got no issues with any of them at all. CEH, I think it's fair to say in the last 2 years, probably the most overrated draft pick in the last 2 years for fantasy managers draft wise.
Well, I mean, if I know you're not a big college guy, Drew, but when you watch the LSU games, and I watch CH, I play college fantasy football as well. That's talk about madness. That is madness. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, when you're looking at it as far as like an evaluation coming into the league, it was a little surprised that the Kansas City drafted them at 30th overall. And
really,
they did have Darrell Williams, who just came off a phenomenal Super Bowl performance.
Damian.
Yeah, Damian Williams.
Damian. You said Darrell. That's fine.
Well, they did have Darrell Williams too, but he wasn't.
They did.
So listen, they had Damian Williams. He came out phenomenal Super Bowl, and then what did they do at 30? Obviously, they should have took offensive lineman, but they took CH, whose talent you kind of were like, okay, he's probably good enough in that offense. But now you're seeing maybe he isn't good enough. Maybe like they kind of made all these excuses, like he's going to be the next Brian Westbrook and the Andy Reid system, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
He's not that guy.
No.
To quote the famous meme that's floating around too, he's not that guy.
Do you blame Andy Reid in Scott? I think it's saying his name right, Scott Piccoli, the GM. Do you blame them for drafting him after when they found out about Damian opting out? Because they did have Darrell Williams still.
No, they drafted him. They drafted him before. It's just that was 2 years ago. But didn't he opt out? He didn't. Yeah, he
opted out. He opted out like in July or August. Damian Williams opted out when the COVID opt-out last year, but they drafted him in April.
You're right. So I mean, I don't know if they were shocked by that, I guess, but but
okay.
Still, if you were expecting Damian Williams to play, why draft him?
Why draft him?
I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, so, it would be one thing if they drafted him and Williams opted out prior to the draft, but that's not what happened. So I was like, a little different that way.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think it's just a combination of talent. I think when you also too when you have Pat Mahomes out there, you're expecting more pass blocking, pass blocking front, that kind of stuff. But it's not what's going on there. My other star too, Trey Sherman. I think that's going to be a pretty popular pickup and everything like that. People who've been holding him have been waiting to see him perform. He was outperformed in the preseason, and it was a little bit surprised when he was inactive. And once Moser went down, he was the next man up. But he doesn't play because one of the things is he doesn't play special teams. Kerryon Johnson, I think, is going to be active for them, but I don't think that he's going to really work too much into the game plan. So Trey Sherman against that Green Bay D, I mean, he's going to have a lot of touches, and I think what he does is run the football, and I think we'll be okay.
I agree. I have no issues with that at all whatsoever. Drew's wide receiver start Chris Godwin against the Rams and Chase Claypool against the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm sitting Mike Evans against the Rams, and I'm sitting Corey Davis against the Denver Broncos. With me, I'm looking at it, what we talked about. I do think that Jalen Ramsey will be following Mike Evans. I think they will go away a little bit from their philosophy that they have done with him lining up in the inside against the slot, because I think they want to take away that big type of momentum play with Mike Evans that he usually does. We saw it last week against the Falcons. I think they'll take him away, and I think they'll bet on Chris Godwin, trying to see if he could beat them in their defense with Gronk and him. And Antonio Brown is out with COVID, so we're going to see a little bit more of Scotty Miller, and we probably will see a little bit more of a double tight end set with OJ Howard possibly. I heard a couple of rumors saying that Howard might be getting it a lot this week because of Brown being out. And the whole Chase Claypool thing is just simply because Deontay Johnson's out. So targets need to be fed, targets need to be spread around. And I think Chase will get a lot more targets now that Deontay's out with him and Juju. And we don't know that much about Najee Harris passing wise. I don't think he's gotten that many targets in the last 2 weeks in from a passing situation. So I like Chase a lot this week against a weak secondary in Cincinnati. And Corey Davis, I mean, it's just wasted talent in the organization that won't do good against the Denver defense that will target him and nobody else, because there's no one else to pretty much throw to when it comes to the Jets. So those are my reasonings.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really like your Godwin and Claypool pick. I think I had Claypool myself. Might have had Godwin as well. I don't know, but I knew I'd have Godwin in a couple of daily fantasies. I think you're spot on with that. I mean, if I have to choose between Juju Smith or Claypool, I'm going Claypool just because I think he is a little bit more touchdown reliable.
Agree.
So, I'm going to take that. Plus, they work him into, handoffs, runs, that kind of stuff. They mix him in the offense overall more than that, and I think he has more valuable there. I like Godwin as to be the receiver that has the ability to get open in that Tampa Bay offense. Not like, pretty much everybody's open. But with Antonio Brown out, I think, Mike Evans is going to be the one that's going to get shaded to the help, and Godwin's going to have those one-on-one opportunities because Gronk's going to be working underneath, and we've seen how effective. I think Gronk fantasy-wise has been a huge surprise. I mean, he's pretty much been outperforming everybody. I don't know if is he tight end 1 right now, or
I believe he's tight end 3 behind Waller.
Waller.
He might be tight end 2. He might be tight end 2 because the Waller didn't have that much production last week.
I mean, in non PPR, I have him 3 overall when right ahead of Kelsey. So it's
okay.
3 overall, and that includes wide receivers too. So I mean, he's extremely tight end touchdown dependent leagues. But so that's what I'm saying. Like, so somebody's going to have to start paying attention to him, and I think Godwin's going to be the one to get open there.
Miami and just got breaking news. Miami and Houston are now talking again about Deshaun Watson.
Nice.
Just want to throw that out there. He said that
let's go back to that. They never. Honestly, I don't think they ever stopped talking.
What Glazer is saying is that now they're starting to soften their trade value for Watson.
Right. So it's been, how it is, man. I mean, when we're not taking trade offers from Nick Nazzari and them bums, it's a back and forth process. I mean, when you're talking about real life trades and not fantasy trades, you're talking about guys who are going to be, hey, we'll get 3 first rounds, 2, and it's negotiation. And it really never ended. And I think Deshaun Watson to Miami made the most sense preseason, and it still makes the most sense, especially with Tua hurt. So, you have to kind of love that. That's awesome. Hope Deshaun lands there. I have him in a bunch of leagues. Some are mostly 2 quarterback flex, super flex league, that kind of stuff. And
right.
Yeah, like I said, you draft him at the last round. I think we mentioned it. I think it's a lottery ticket. Mike Thomas, who was activated off the PUP, but he's still, I think he's out for a couple more weeks. That's another lottery ticket. I mean, late round flyers in fantasy, they're gonna pan out.
Yes, you got Marvin Jones Jr. against Arizona Cardinals, and we already talked about Chase Claypool, and that's the other start. Calvin Ridley against the New York Giants. This one was pretty interesting. And Brandon Ayuk, obviously, probably the biggest disappointment of this year so far for fantasy owners that drafted him in the 3rd or 4th, which was his ADP. Calvin Ridley, what's your thought process on this one?
Thought process. Well, when I do these things, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to tell people to start DeAndre Hopkins. I think I did that a little bit last week, and I just didn't like it. So I'm trying to go out a little bit on a limb and try to kind of predict. So obviously, if you have Calvin Ridley, you're not really you're not looking to sit him. You're for the most part, unless you're in a deep dynasty league or some league, But I'm just saying, Calvin Ridley, I don't like the matchup today. I think the Giants defense is a little bit better than people thought. When you're looking at his situational stats right now, you're looking at he's got 8 targets, which isn't a huge amount for his production of 12 catches, 100 yards, and 1 touchdown. And so that's only 50 yards a game. So in the first 2 games, and he hasn't really taken that leap like he did when Julio Jones was out last year. Calvin Ridley was ripping off 100-yard games left and right. I just don't think that the Giants game is a get right game for him. Like you have Mike Davis as you like. I think Mike Davis. I think Kyle Pitts. I think them guys have a decent amount of decent amount of ability to kind of be a little bit more productive than Calvin Ridley today. I mean, Calvin Ridley was that receiver right now in the 1st, 2nd round that people took. But if I'm trying to look at this, I'm gonna look at his target share here. He's been getting targeted almost as not as a top 10 receiver. I mean, Braxton Berrios has more targets than him. Sterling Jeff Shepard, my guy. Marvin Jones Jr., who I put up there, had more targets than him. So I mean, he's. If you have him, you're going to start him because he's your number 1 wide receiver. But just don't expect something. And Marvin Jones Jr. I think Trey Lawrence is happy with him. He somebody has to get some points out there. So Marvin Jones Jr. is the guy that kind of separated himself. Laviska Shenault is a guy that's kind of
not getting played right. he in that system. I don't listen. We could talk about Urban Meyer all day long. Go ahead and finish. I get frustrated with him.
Yeah, no, it's frustrating because James Robinson isn't being used right. You know, Chenault's not being used right, and Marvin Jones Jr. is a standard receiver. He's okay. He's an okay player. He's going to put up some points.
Who was real quick? Who was the head coach last year for them? What's his name? White dude.
Well, that's
a
good guess.
Fat guy.
Fat white dude as a coach? Never.
Never. Oh my God, I can't think of his name. But anyways, I thought he utilizes this offense a lot better than what we're seeing with Urban Meyer. I mean, James Robinson,
Doug Marrone.
Marrone.
Yeah.
How is he? The fall, Quig. What he was the number one pickup last year after week 1, and he finished, I believe, in the top 10 of RBs. So, what happened? Why do you come into an organization, Urban Meyer? You have this in front of you, but no, I need to draft Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence in his protection because the man is under pressure the last 2 weeks. He's ruining one of the best quarterback prospects coming out of college.
Yeah. I mean, why do you do this? You have to ask ownership. I hated the move. I mean, if, we talked about on the other show a little bit, Bills Mafia, what's going on, guys? Should have a big game today. We talked about it in the show that we just got on about breaking down all the games. It seems that you have so many resources, you have so many draft capital, you have young talent. I mean, because they do have young defensive talent too. And then you put it in the hands of a guy who has no experience. And that kind of falls solely on ownership. Now, in the other show, we talked about how I think Mike McCarthy is just kind of like a placeholder for Kellen Moore to take over for a Dallas job.
Right.
That wouldn't have been a bad plan for the Jacksonville Jaguars to get somebody who had some experience in there, whether it would be I don't even know who's. I'm just like a Marvin Lewis or somebody just had experience that could kind of like give these young teams some like this is how professional football is played. Urban Meyer doesn't have that.
No, he doesn't.
He drafts Etienne, making James Robinson irrelevant. Now Etienne gets hurt, and it's like, okay, Robinson will be irrelevant. Then he doesn't use him. He brings in this sideshow of Tim Tebow to sell a quick jersey grab. It's like, yeah, and I think it's Shahir Khan, not Shaka Khan.
Yeah,
Shaka, right? But
yeah, right.
Shaka Khan, I loved her. She was killing it in the 80s. Shaka Khan. But
great song.
But yeah, but no, that is a realistic threat is to have them move to London. And I mean, Jacksonville isn't a bad market. It's a smaller market, but if you put out a winning product, which they haven't had since Leonard Fournette a few years ago, I guess. Yeah. That was kind of like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, with Blake Bortles.
Yeah, so I mean, they will be embraced. I mean, but if you truly want to put a franchise in London, it should be an expansion franchise, and you shouldn't try to burn down another franchise.
Agree. Finish it up here with Drew starts the tight ends. We got Robert Tonyan against the San Francisco 49ers as one of my starts, and then I also have Kyle Pitts against the New York Giants. And we talked a little bit about Kyle Pitts already. I know you did. He's starting to come to his own in this offense, and I think that he's going to really expose this Giants linebacking core that's really bad. So, I really like these two starts a lot this week. And then I'm sorry.
Just the only thing I got a question about Pitts on is if they put Jabril Peppers in the man-to-man matchup with him, I think that might be a little bit. Listen, as a football fan, I'd love to see it.
That's a good point. And then my sit of the week is Tyler Higbee against Tampa Bay. I don't know why he keeps on getting ranked high as a top 5 or 6 matchup each week. They got to let it go. And Dawson Knox, who was one of the highest stream ads after last week's performance, He's going against Washington's football team. I don't see it happening at all this week with Josh Allen and them boys. And I don't feel comfortable at all against Dawson Knox, against the Washington football. Even though their secondary is bad, I understand that. I still don't feel comfortable with Dawson Knox as a must start this week. So I got to sit him as a must sit. For Tony, you want to say something? Go ahead.
No, I like Knox as well. I said,
Yeah. For Tony, we got Blake Jarwin against the Philadelphia Eagles and Robert Tonyan, same as me, against the San Francisco 49ers. We got Logan Thomas as the first sit against the Buffalo Bills, which is pretty interesting. And his last one is Tyler Higbee against Tampa Bay. So we've been pretty similar in our starts and sits besides the select few.
Well, I don't have Tonyan. I think you must have you probably didn't update that. I have actually Mike Gesicki as a start. I think.
Oh, okay.
Instead of Tonyan. So yeah. So like I said, I'm trying to dig a little deeper than certain like the top guys. So I took Tonyan off there. I went with Gesicki. I know Gesicki kind of had owners jumping off the bridge after week 1. I like Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett, when he was with Indianapolis, he kind of used the tight end as well. Mates had some productive production out of him. The same thing when he was getting some starts in Houston. So he likes to throw the tight end a little bit. So I'm gonna go with Mike Gesicki because I think he does have the talent. The other one, Blake Jarwin, Monday Night Football. I think the Philadelphia defense is going to be scrambling a little bit with the loss of Brandon Graham. So they're not going to be themselves. I think Darius Slay is going to be having to move to one of the either you take CeeDee Lamb or Cooper or something like that. And I think Blake Jarwin, who is the bigger receiving threat of Dalton Schultz, I think he has a big run, and I think he's going to get you some decent yardage and possibly likes the little tutty there. Logan Thomas, listen, I just don't like him with Taylor with Heineke.
Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, I think like I mentioned earlier, he stares down Terry McLaurin, which is great for McLaurin owners because he's going to get a ton of volume. Bill's defense is going to be tough, and I'm with you on the Tyler Higbee. You know what? He doesn't. I don't know what he does well. I mean, he's as average as you can be as a tight end. But you're right. He keeps getting bumped up, and I think he had a couple of good games 2 years ago, and people were waiting for him to come up.
Yep.
Tampa Bay isn't the team. I mean, with Levante David and Devin White out there, I mean, you see what they did against Kelsey. Tight ends don't really have a great success against them. No. So I'm not playing Tyler Higbee, and I'm thankful I'm not in a position where I have to play him. I'm playing guys like Eric Ebron and Jonnu Smith and them kind of stuff over Tyler Higbee.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. It's bewildering to me to know that they let go of Gerald Everett. I know he's not doing that much in Seattle, but I thought he was always the better tight end choice for the Rams than Higbee, especially with Stafford coming in. I think the reason why his matchups are always high for Higbee is because of Stafford. Stafford loves that tight end. He loves that usage. He loves that connection he has, and it just hasn't translated onto the field, Tone. So, I'm with you on that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. We hope you helped you out a lot today, and come back and look at the show later on today to see how well we are when it comes to this fantasy world. And man, it's a pleasure. It's always fun.
We got a quick decision before we leave. Brandon Othman. With Cook out, would you start Madison or Slayton versus the week? Listen, Darius Slayton has been a pleasant surprise, but you know what? Kenny Galladay's playing. Sterling Shepard's getting a lot of targets. Evan Ingram is back, so I don't know if Slayton is going to get that workload. I know Matson's going to get the workload. I'm sticking with Alexander Mattson. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, Alexander Mattson, Tone, 1,000% with you. Like we talked about in the previous show, he's a back that is durable back that can catch from the backfield and it can run in, has great vision. He's a great backup and a handcuff to Dalvin Cook. And we're like we said before, and you even mentioned it, Vikings will always be a first run offense. So he's definitely going to be getting a lot of attempts, a lot of rushing attempts. He's going to get some targets, and he's definitely going to get some red zone opportunities against the Seattle defense.
He's getting opportunity, and that's the thing. I mean, when Danny Dimes, who we both have on our start list, and we're going to have a good thing. When he drops back, he has Galladay, Evan Ingram, Slayton, Shepard, Saquon out of the backfield, who I think bounced back today. So I'm going with the guy that I know when Kirk Cousins drops back to hand it off, he's getting a rock.
Definitely agree. Definitely agree. I like Madison on playing him, but the guy has burned us all in the past. Yeah, it happens, but we'll see what happens today. It's still Seattle's defense. It's one of the worst defenses in the NFL, I think, considerably, but especially in their defensive line, a linebacking core. They only have Wagner, and that's it.
If he does half as well as Derrick Henry did, you'll be happy as a fantasy owner.
Exactly. All right, guys, that's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll try to try to be better next week. And until then, on behalf of me, Tony, we'll catch you guys next Sunday.
Take care, Drew. Have a good one, bud. Good luck in all the leagues except the Sports Box League where I need a win.
Thank you for watching this episode of Game Winning Drive on the Sports Box. Please remember to follow us on all of our social media outlets. On Facebook at Sportsbox Show, Twitter at Sportsbox Show, Instagram at The Sportsbox Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And also our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 free points. Thank you for joining us.